What do you want? Hello. Actual communist boy, you're here.
Hey.
What's up?
All right. So all the other soy boys social want to argue like morals and dumb shit like that. I'm gonna red pill you on the empirical evidence for socialism.
Okay.
So like, what's the strongest empirical evidence against socialism?
No, I don't think that you can have
what would be the
empirical
strongest empirical evidence for it?
I don't think you have empirical evidence against it. It just doesn't seem like it's been done on like a large level yet.
Oh, sure. So I should clarify. I am a democratic socialist, and I think that the USSR came reasonably close to implementing a bad, but still centrally planned socialist system. And I think that a lot of the other socialist countries did as well. So you can evaluate those for the effects of central planning under socialism.
Okay.
There's a lot of empirics that suggest those countries did extremely well on several metrics, such as improving healthcare quality for people in their countries, such as like very quick industrialization, and so on. I won't defend like the political repression or anything like that, but
Okay. Give me your tanky propaganda. Let's hear it.
okay. Sure. Here, you know what? I'm gonna open my DMs with you since you wouldn't. I've sent you like 15
I know you've sent me a
megabytes.
fuck ton of DMs. I know. I ignore all of them. Go ahead.
Woke. Sure. So the first one is that in virtually all socialist countries, compared to countries of the same income, so for like low income, medium income, and so on, the socialist countries tended to have better quality of life indicators for health.
Okay.
And so the argument is that this represents a like move from spending resources on things like, basically luxury spending of the rich to the spending of the people themselves, to the need to survive and do well.
Okay.
I mean, do you disagree?
I don't know. I haven't been woke up on this yet, but why can't so then what do we need to do in America to get there?
Sure. So the argument is that the model that like the Soviet Union used wasn't actually very good, but something like nationalizing all of the healthcare industry would go a good first step. There is no fundamental argument for having separate producers, as it were, of healthcare, like separate providers and separate levels all up. In theory, shall be one giant vertically integrated organization.
Yeah, okay. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if it should be vertically integrated completely. Like, I'm okay with like the government paying for it, but like there being like different researchers and everything related to it. But
sure. So like, what's the argument for having separate organizations? Like, what would be the gain of having, say, two organizations that did this, like two giant insurance companies versus one giant insurance company?
Well, the idea is the free marketplace go ahead and kicks in and makes the competition of ideas produce better outcomes or some shit. I don't know. Multiple people competing after similar government price contracts or whatever is supposed to be a good thing.
Sure, but all the empirical evidence seems to show that countries with like single-payer healthcare, cheaper healthcare, and not all.
Well, but whoa. Single-payer healthcare doesn't mean you're completely and totally vertically.
I know.
Right?
But what I'm saying is like as they move closer, it's cheaper. And so like here's another fun one. In 1960, the healthcare system of the Soviet Union cost about 5% of GDP. At the time, the United States healthcare system cost about 8% of GDP.
Yeah, but that's like not enough for me to know if it's actually better or not, right?
I know.
Like they might have cost a lot less, but they might not have had good outcomes or something, right?
Sure. So the story of the Soviet Union healthcare is that it was like extremely good up until about 1960, and then it had reduced funding after that, and it got really, really bad. But in the like early 60s, the life of people as high, like I think it was like low 70s as people in the United States. I can pull those stats.
Okay. I mean, I'll believe you. 'Cause I'm not fact checking this right now, but go ahead. Wait, hello?
A socialist country, or just even like a single payer system, is more efficient. Why would we want the competition to be that effective rather than the benefits of having a centrally planned system?
Well, wait. I thought we just said that, or do we not agree on this? Just because you have a single payer option in your government doesn't mean that it's entirely vertically planned. Like
Chasworth is now a tier
sure, but the argument is like
subscriber.
as we move in that direction, it seems like things get cheaper. Not, but like,
Okay, but like as I move in the direction of adding like more weight to a barbell, like I can get stronger, but that doesn't mean I'm gonna like try to bench like 700 pounds to get really strong in one day, right? Like it's possible that as you move towards
Sure.
it, like there's probably like we can talk about things like the Laffer curve, right? Or Laffer curve, like less taxation might result in more revenue.
Actually, that's another good empirical meme.
Okay, that might result that might result in more revenue up to a point, but like 0% tax rate is going to be no revenue, right? Like, so I mean, like just because like moving in the direction of single payer is good doesn't necessarily mean that.
Sure, no,
yeah.
you're correct.
Okay,
but that's why I provided the example of the Soviet Union, which was effectively like a total health.
I just don't know anything about this. I'll dig.
Yeah,
I'll
no,
dig
that's fair.
into it, okay?
I know.
I'll take a
point.
look. Okay, when I get the chance, I'll do the tanky research stream.
So the argument is that. So the next argument would be perhaps this is true of healthcare. Perhaps this is true of just this one industry. Like maybe the free market doesn't work here. Maybe central planning works better. So does this apply elsewhere? And so there isn't that much research that I can find on like public versus private shit in most sectors. But there was one of, I think it was a meta study of like multiple studies, which found that on average, when you take a corporation that's owned by the state, you privatize it, it does worse for the first 5 years, but by about 10 years, it does about the same as the original non-privatized publicly owned entity.
Okay.
So, and I can link that one as well. So, if true, then this suggests that public entities at least don't do worse. And this is in like Western countries. I haven't been linking these things because I don't know, getting nervous or whatever, but I will.
So what is that supposed to prove, or?
Sure. So if public organizations don't do worse, then there's presumably no benefit to having competition, as it were, compared to like at least some level of state control.
Okay. How do we do this in the United States?
Hello?
Yeah. Hello.
Oh, sorry. Hello.
Okay. What do I need to do? What do we need to do in the U.S. to get there?
Reformism. Just keep going.
Gotcha. Sounds good. I'm okay with that.
Oh my god.
What?
I sent you an email, and I was like, I'm going to argue the empirics of socialism. And you sent back the response, well, I sure hope there's more co-op in the United States.
Well, like,
God,
I'm
dude,
okay with reforming. If we move in directions that are empirically
shit
proven, I'm
up.
fine with that. That's fine. I'm already in favor of that. I'm already in favor of single payer healthcare. I'm already in favor of greater redistribution of wealth. I'm already in favor of probably like more like worker representation in terms of like unions and whatnot. Like these are policies I'm already fine with. I just don't know why I need to be like a full-on like all labor is exploitative. The fucking proletariat will rise. I don't think I need to go like that full fucking AIDS in order to have those conversations. I can continue to push for programs that maybe move us towards a state of socialism at some point in the future without thinking that like capital owners need to like literally be strung up and eaten by children in the street.
Sure. The argument is if we're going to go like 70%, what is the remaining benefit for like the 30%?
I don't know. If the 30% is good, then we'll keep going. Fuck it. If it ends up working out, like fucking if co-ops end up becoming like really fucking popular, then I'm just like, yeah, why the fuck do we need capital owners anymore? This shit is a waste of fucking time. People are happier, healthier, and produce more when they're working in a fucking co-op than when they do in like shitty capital owned things.
Sure. So that gets into like very fundamental Marxian critiques of capitalism. Like the argument against just cooperatives, that what you're describing is called mutualism.
Okay.
And so the argument against that is that it doesn't resolve the fundamental problems of capitalism. There
What's
are
the
cyclical
fundamental
crises
problem?
and misallocation of resources.
Okay, and this magically doesn't happen in a socialist system, right?
The argument is that you could do better with planning. So that's like another empirical claim.
I mean, you could do better with well, of course, that's like kind of that statement is so vacuous. That's kind of like saying like a benevolent dictator would theoretically be the best form of government, right? Like if you could plan out like something like perfectly, well then of course a perfectly planned economy is going to be better than a market economy that has an errors built into it, right? But I mean, like what about like real life?
That's like the utopian thing. If I just say there's the perfect planning system, of course I win this argument.
Yeah. Or I could point out like, well, what about when people try to plan economies in a really shit way? Like when Venezuela tries to set prices for things and the prices are too low, and then
Venezuela's not a good example of economic planning. Like the oil company was already nationalized prior to.
Whoa, hold on. I'm not talking about the oil company. The oil company.
I know there's nuanced memes. No.
Let me. Oh my God! Stop. Okay, listen. I'm not talking about the oil company. Okay, Venezuela's oil company was public for a long time and worked really well. I'm not saying the oil company is an example of their failings. One of the principal failings of Venezuela seems to be that they tried to set price controls on products that companies could not meet. So the companies ended up fucking leaving the country, and a lot of those products weren't made anymore. That's like an attempt to plan an economy. Is saying, hey, the cost of this good is going to equal this price, period. And then when companies were like, well, hey, we can't make that product, we're fucking leaving. That was a big fuck up of an attempted planned economy. That's what I'm saying. It's nothing to do with the oil shit. The oil shit was socialized and all that shit, and it seemed to work out really well. Okay, go ahead.
Sure. The problem is simply that is not an example of like a fully planned economy. By that metric, literally every Western country is a partially planned economy, which is true.
Of course, sure. Anytime you're
at
setting
some
up price control, like a minimum wage is like a form of planning, or like the
like
subsidies we
even
give to
the
farmers.
EPA is central planning at some level. Like
To some, if you're
yeah.
if you're taxing and sure, okay.
Yeah, so the argument isn't like that central planning always good or whatever. Absurd argument.
Well, no, but that perfect central planning would be perfectly good,
In
which of course I agree
historical-
with.
The argument for me is empirically, even with like as bad as the Soviet Union was, it did relatively well. So one empirical metric is real GDP per capita. And in terms of real GDP per capita, the USSR grew about as quickly relative to its starting real GDP per capita as Canada. So slightly underdid the OECD average, but about as well as Canada. So if Canada's like a failed state, it's on par with the Soviet Union.
Okay. Maybe I
And
don't. I
so-
just don't know. I have to. I'll dig into.
I mean, sure,
the,
there's like a lot of reading to
the
this.
tanky
Yeah.
memes. Yep, I'll go into it. Okay.
I need to see. This is why we need live debate. I'll get out my binder and you can look at them in real time.
Yeah, and I'll go over it. Okay, sounds good. Okay. Are we good? Am I blue pilled, red pilled now? Is that okay?
Yeah, you're bread pilled.
Okay, thanks.
You're done.
All
He's
right.
socialist.
Thanks. Thank you.
Spam burn, boys.
You did it. Burn in the chat.